If you're into aliens bursting out of your chest and terrorizing your coworkers, I've got the perfect game for you. And honestly, there are many perfect games for you. Alien has been leaking acid blood all over our movie screens and tabletops since the late 1970s. And whether you're a fan of the original film, James Cameron's action-packed sequel, one of those other ones, there is a board game that could put you right in the middle of the mayhem. You may not be able to get your hands on the 1979 family-friendly board game from Kenner, but don't fret, because there's a plethora of Alien or Alien-inspired games available that have come out in the past few years, with a choice few that seem to be the best of the bunch. There's Legendary Encounters, an Alien deck-building game that people seem to love, Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core that people love to hate, the copyright-infringing, or let's say thematically inspired, Nemesis, and the latest entry into the void of endless Alien games is Alien: Fate of the Nostromo. And that's the game I want to play today, using the Director's Cut, which is a variant set of rules I found on BoardGameGeek. Designer Scott Rogers started a thread to discuss his alternate version of the rules, which he claims makes the game 60% harder. The game is hard enough as is, but the Director's Cut does offer some interesting options, especially for a solo player. Some of you may be asking what exactly is a Nostromo and why is its fate my responsibility, and I'll tell you the same thing I tell some of my students. It's plain to see you haven't studied for this exam. That's an automatic F. As I go through and play, I'll discuss the differences between the two rule sets, and also I'll touch on why I enjoy playing Fate of the Nostromo a lot more than its adopted older brother Nemesis. The games are very similar. This is a pared down version of that, but I find obviously thematically, this is an Alien game that is trying to be an Alien game, and so there's a few elements in this game that I find do it better. It's a faster game, and to me, I find that it's more enjoyable. So to get things going, there's a few different things you got to do to set up the board. First, get rid of one coolant canister, put that back in the box. Also put a cat carrier, an incinerator, and a grapple gun back in the box. And to play it solo, you got to choose a minimum of 3 characters or a minimum of 4 objectives. I guess you could play it with less characters and 4 objectives, and I think it would be a lot harder, but I guess that's how you can decide the difficulty of the game itself. Today I'm playing with Ripley, Parker, and Lambert. So another difference with the Director's Cut, once you complete your 4 objectives, the self-destruct board has to come out, and then after every player takes a turn, 1 token is removed from that. So you really just have kind of 4 rounds to go through before the ship self-destructs. Ash is always going to be in play. He starts off in the med bay, your characters start off in the galley, and there is a coolant canister placed in the equipment storage, garage, suit storage, maintenance, and workshop. And there's also 2 pieces of scrap placed in the workshop, maintenance, and equipment storage. So this is how the board is going to be set up. We don't start off with any concealed tokens on the board, but as we flip through our encounter cards, they will start appearing. I'm going to put a link in the description to a cheat sheet I found on BoardGameGeek that makes it a lot easier to set up the board for the Director's Cut. With the board ready to go, I've selected 4 objectives and 1 final mission. And so my final mission will only be revealed once I complete my 4 objectives. So let me show you these objective cards close up a bit. Give a little incentive. Task: bring an electric prod to the galley. Shouldn't have landed on this ball. Task: bring a grapple gun to the garage. What's the damage? Task: all crew members in workshop. Crew meeting. Task: all crew members in galley with at least 1 scrap token in each crew member's inventory. Those are my 4 objectives. So let's get started. I'm going to try and accomplish the 2 galley objectives at the same time, since all of my crew members have to kind of like scatter and regroup. So let's start by having Ripley move to the lower level and try and collect some scrap. So 1, 2, 3, grab this scrap, enter an inventory. In the Director's Cut, scrap tokens have to go into one of your 3 inventory slots. You could put as many tokens as you want in there, but it has to be in one of those slots. So now Ripley's turn is over. We go to our first encounter card. Top left, we have our movement. Top right, we have our morale. And at the bottom, we have the number of scrap tokens we're going to add and the number of concealed tokens. So here, 1 movement. So the alien will move 1. Ash will also move 1. Now, if we encounter the alien, we will lose 2 morale, but thankfully we didn't. And in the docking bay, we have to add 2 scrap tokens. and 1 concealed token. And now, since there's some scrap closer, I think Parker is going to move over there, though he will hit that concealed token. So hopefully it won't be an alien encounter. So Parker's turn, 1, 2, flip this, and it is an alien encounter. Horrible. It's the worst kind too. So that means the alien appears in the docking bay. We lose 3 morale, 1, 2, 3. This goes back into this, and we'll shuffle these around a bit. And now Parker runs away. So there's no actual death in this. It's pretty much just like evasion. So when the alien appears, we run away. So Parker can move 3 places, 1, 2, 3. And after that, his turn is over, and we go right to the encounter. So our alien is moving 1. It is getting close. Ash is also getting closer. And in the bridge, we add 1 scrap and 1 concealed token. We move on to Lambert. Seems like the bad guys are closing in already. So let's maybe move down to the subdeck because there's no threat there right now. So Lambert is going to go 1, 2, 3, head directly to where Ripley was. Maybe for the heck of it, she'll grab this cooling canister, and that'll be the end of her turn. And our next encounter card. Thankfully, it's just 1 and 1. Equipment storage, 2 scrap tokens. That's great because that's where we are here. So we get some more scrap and a concealed token. Now, because it's added while we're in there, it's not going to be revealed until the next person enters that area. I think the idea of the director's cut is to just add a lot more, thematic elements to the gameplay that I guess are more similar to the movie. So, of course, having the self-destruct, that happens in movie, it has to happen. There's more than one person moving around, with Ash being in play, like stuff like that. It makes the game a lot more challenging. And it goes pretty fast too, which is great. So this isn't going to be a long game, unlike Nemesis, which can take forever. And also the first couple of moves in Nemesis, I always find that you're just flipping tiles. And because you could spend 2 cards to move quietly or select where you're going to make noise, you can spend your first few rounds just doing that. You're never going to make so much noise that an intruder is going to appear right off the bat. It gets to a point where, of course, you've kind of like painted yourself into a corner. But I always find the first couple of rounds of Nemesis are kind of boring. And so that's where this game gets right into it right away. Because it's a smaller board, because you're playing with 3 characters in the director's cut, and having an encounter after every player takes their turn, and it can be over faster than you know it. So if I really want to play an alien game, I don't want to play an alien ripoff game. I want to play an alien game. I want to play a game in the universe because these are characters that I've loved for years. Ripley is as popular as she is because of the movies, because of what she does in those movies. And just creating a new game that's inspired by this world with characters that you've never heard of. It's the same as like creating a new movie and Ripley's not in it. There's a reason why the newer alien films are not as well loved as the originals. You could like them, but you won't love them because Ripley is a character that everybody relates to, and in a board game, the type of character that everybody wants to play. I'm pretty sure every person who opens up this game, the first character they will pick to play will be Ripley. That's probably why her ability requires other characters as well, so that you could play them together as a team. We're back to Ripley. Parker doesn't seem to be in a good place. And what's cool too is that if you move into the same spot as Ash, you don't lose any morale. It's when Ash moves into your spot that you will lose morale. And if Ash moves onto a space that has any scrap in it, he will take one of the scrap tokens because supposedly he's doing nefarious things behind the scenes. Ripley has 2 scrap. I have to build an electric prod. The electric prod requires 3 scrap. So if I take this 3rd scrap, actually I'm going to take these 2. Put it in my inventory. I'm going to take those 2 scraps and I'm going to craft the grapple gun. Now, in the director's cut, to craft, you have to either be in equipment storage or the workshop. Those are the only 2 areas that you can craft items in. Thankfully, I'm there. So I'm going to spend 3 tokens, grab the grapple gun, put it into my inventory. And so that was 1, 2. I am now going to move out of here. 3, 4. Actually, no, 3. And I'm going to use her ability and move Parker 1 space further away from the alien into where Ash is. And because I'm moving Parker into Ash's space, we don't lose any morale. And that'll be Ripley's last action. So let's flip ourselves an encounter card. Whew. So that means we are adding 2 scrap to hypersleep, which is up here, and 1 of those. So alien moves 1. In the original rules, if a character is on the same spot as Ash, Ash is kind of like being observed, and so he doesn't move. In the director's cut, that doesn't happen, so Ash can move, and he will. He's going to move down here to where Lambert is, and we're going to have 1 morale go down. And in the director's cut, Ash does not steal scrap from players. That's only part of the original rule set. So now we have Parker. Let's run away from the alien. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to use Parker's ability to add 1 scrap to his inventory. And then we're going to flip an encounter card. All right. We haven't had any major kind of alien attacks, which is good. So another 1. Alien moves here. Ash moves there. We lose 1 more morale. And we are adding 2 scrap to the airlock and a concealed token. And now Lambert, 1, 2, 3. She's going to grab this scrap for her 4th turn. And since all my characters are down here, I'm actually going to make them all head over to the workshop because that is one of my objectives. I also have, I was supposed to build the electric prod. I made a mistake there. But since I have the grapple gun, I'm going to get Ripley into the garage. I accidentally crafted the wrong item, so I'm going to go into the garage because I have the grapple gun. Then I have to manufacture the electric prod and bring that back to the galley. So I'll do that next. I think I might have enough scraps if I go into the workshop. So let's do that. And so Lambert's turn is over. And that means Ash is kind of slowly killing our morale. Alien is coming here. Alien is getting closer. We add 2 scraps to the med bay with a concealed token. And we are back to Ripley. Ripley's going to go into the garage just to complete that 1 objective. 1, 2, 3. And so now we are in the garage with the grapple gun. So this one is done. And should I grab the cooling canister just in case? Sure, why not? 4. And let's go back to an encounter card. And so that is moving Ash 1 over here. Take that down that morale. Alien moves 1 here. And we're adding 3 scrap to the garage, which is awesome. I could just grab that. And a concealed token. And so now we are on Parker. Parker is going to do 1, 2, 3. Grab these. 4. Ooh. Here we have an alien hunt. So the alien and Ash are going to move 2, which is going to trigger an evasion by Lambert. So 1, 2. Lambert, we lose 4 morale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lambert is going to run away. Ooh. This is going to be rough. 1, 2, 3 for now. Ash is going to move 1, 2. I'm going to lose 1 more morale. And now we're going to move on to Lambert's turn. One thing about the director's cut as well is if I am in the med bay or the galley, I can spend 3 scrap to put morale down 1, or I guess up 1. And I can do that once per turn. That's a way to kind of keep morale high, I guess, as you go through it. And that's something you can do in the director's cut that isn't part of the original rule set. So now it's Lambert's turn, and she just had to run. She doesn't have enough scraps. 1, 2. I'm going to make her go to the med bay. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so then hopefully we're not going to lose so much morale that the game is going to be over, but it may. And so encounter. This one isn't bad. Mother, 2 and 1. 2 scrap in mother with a concealed token. The alien will move 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's going to go here. Ash will start moving towards its next target, which will be Ripley. And Ripley has the grapple gun, which allows me to move the alien 3 spaces. So I think I might do that to kind of get the alien further away from everybody. So she will move 1, 2, 3. Use the grapple gun. Move the alien 1, 2, 3. Let's see if this will work. We may have lost too many. Oh. And this encounter card, I think, signifies the end of the game. So the alien will move 3. 1, 2. Encounters Ripley. We lose 3 morale. 1, 2, 3. The crew is lost. Our morale has gotten so low that we've just given up. We no longer want to try to survive or to possibly defeat this alien. So there's a good example of how easy it is to lose this game. I guess the problem too is when you actually kind of have to have all of your characters head to the same place, you often will get cornered. And if I would have lowered morale, would it have been enough? I don't really know. If this game was easy, you probably wouldn't take it off the shelf as often. And the director's cut is supposed to increase the difficulty upwards of 60%. If you have seen any of the videos on Nemesis or if you played that game, it's very similar. The board actually kind of looks similar as well, which is kind of funny. Well, it is, let's say, a ripoff, so it makes sense. But in Nemesis, you have your objectives, you're moving around the board, and you're unaware of what area you're in until you're in it. You've lost your memory because waking up from hypersleep causes amnesia. And so you have to explore the ship to remember where each of these locations are. And depending, of course, on what objective you have to find certain locations. And in reality, you might not find that location until you explore the last possible room on your ship in Nemesis. So I think there are times when that game is brutally hard, but there's also times where that game is brutally boring. And that's my problem with Nemesis is each time I've played it a lot solo. I've only played it once with another person. And both times I just felt like we were just going through the paces to, move our characters and play the game, but neither of us were really enjoying it. We tried to make it immersive. We talked about the story. We tried to set up our characters and what exactly was going on with them. And it still didn't pull us in as much as this game pulls me in. Like right away, seeing an actual alien that we could call an alien and not an intruder is so, I guess, nostalgic for me. I've loved Aliens since I was a kid. One of my closest friends even had the giant plastic alien toy that had a trigger on the back with a mouth shot out. Like those were made for children back then. The Alien movie was rated R, but there were toys based off of the movie made for children.
Another triumph for Alien.
Is it a family-friendly game? Like, sure, nothing really violent happens. There's no actual damage to be done to any characters. There's no player elimination. It really is a game of evasion. So when the alien arrives, you run away. So I think that actually makes it family-friendly. Thematically, obviously, the alien is pretty scary, depending on the types of kids you've raised. So, like a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, it might not be the type of game that they are comfortable playing. My children are well beyond this level of, like horror in regards to board games or toys. So it's a 10 plus game, and that makes a lot of sense to me because there really isn't any violence in this game. You are running away. In the movie, there's a lot of violence. As much as this board game is probably fine for a 10-year-old, you might not think the movie is. That all depends on you. I think if you're a fan of the franchise and you want something that is fast and challenging, it's also a very reasonably priced board game. This comes in around $40. If you want to get your hands on Nemesis, it's like $150. And I really believe that Nemesis is the closest game that you could compare to Fate of the Nostromo. But $150 versus $40. Now, the amount of game components, all that stuff that is in Nemesis is exponentially, grander than this game. The minis are a lot nicer. The amount of objectives and, of course, the way you can build your character is so much more elaborate. But all of those bells and whistles don't always make a better game. And the simplicity of Fate of the Nostromo is one of its strengths, for sure, because you get it out, it's easy to set up, the rules are very straightforward. But when it comes down to it and we just tear it apart to its basic elements and the feeling you get when you play it, Fate of the Nostromo for me will come off my shelf way more than Nemesis. Now that I got Fate of the Nostromo, to tell you the truth, I am considering selling Nemesis. So for me right now, with the amount of games I've put into Fate of the Nostromo, Nemesis, and Legendary Encounters, I would say Fate of the Nostromo is my choice pick for an alien-themed or alien-inspired board game. So if this is something you're really into, I would highly suggest getting your hands on this game. And in the month of October, if you're looking for a more family-friendly, horror-themed board game experience, you won't go wrong with this. Just make sure your kids are aware of what an alien is. Maybe actually sit them down and make them watch the movie before you play the game, even if they're under 10 years old. Like, I'm a parent, I'm telling you it's okay. It's okay to let your children watch horror movies. That was more or less an introduction to the director's cut. As you can see, it's very easy to lose this game, so there's more to it, and I'll be sure to put a link in the description to the rules so you could go through them yourself. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. But thanks a lot for hanging out, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy.